Thank you, Your Excellencies. Industrial sustainability. This has become a pressing topic in recent years, as the world has come to realize the need for sustainable development that balances economic growth with environmental protection. The importance of renewable energy, the need for resource efficiency, and the role of technology in reducing carbon emissions. The UAE has already taken significant steps in this direction. I would like to invite our panelists onto the stage to elaborate more on this interesting subject. Our moderator for the panel is Ms. Reem Al-Ateba, Commercial and ICV Communications Manager at ADNOC. And our esteemed panelists, His Excellency Ambassador Majid Al-Suwaidi, Director General, COP28. His Excellency Saeed Ghamran Al-Rumethi, Group CEO of Arkan and CEO of Emirates Steel. Mr. Yasser Al-Mazroui, Executive Director, People, Commercial and Corporate Services, ADNOC. Mr. Abdel Nasser bin Kalban, Chief Executive Officer of Emirates Global Aluminium. And Mr. Alan Smith, CEO, Aghdiyah.
Assalamu alaikum, masakum Allah bil khair. Good afternoon, everyone. I know we're approaching the last panel for the day, so I have suggested to the panelists that we take a more casual, more relaxed approach for this panel. That is due for the fact that COP28 is nearing, as Dr. Sultan, I think he said 23 days. And because of that, because of this special event, we have named this year as the Year of Sustainability. That is why we have representatives from COP28, the man himself, the director of COP28, and several of representatives from the industrial sector to tell us how can we make it in the Emirates sustainably. So my first question is to you, Your Excellency Majid. You have been on the climate portfolio for several years. Tell us, how is the UAE preparing for COP28?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us here. It's a pleasure. And as you know, we have, as Dr. Sultan said, only 183 days left. So we are full speed ahead and doing very well. As for those of you who don't know, COP will be held in Dubai from the 30th of November
the location?
to the 12th of December.
Some people don't know where the location is.
At Expo City. So for those who don't know, it will be at Expo City, which is, of course, a fantastic venue. And what's exciting about the venue is that we will have the negotiations right next to the private sector area. And for those who aren't familiar with how COPs work, the COPs are divided into two zones. One is the blue zone and one is the green zone. And the blue zone is like a piece of the UN where we have the negotiations. And the green zone is where the private sector engages in the process. And we always talk about the climate process as a process for a reason, because we often think of it as an event that happens at the end of the year, but in fact it's a process that goes on throughout the year. And why is this COP important? This COP is important because it's the first review after Paris of our progress since the very important Paris Climate Agreement. And we know that we're not on track to achieve the goals of Paris. The main goal of Paris was to keep global temperatures from going beyond 1.5 degrees. And unfortunately, we're not on track to achieve those goals. A lot of people think about climate change as an environmental issue. In fact, climate change is a whole of system issue. It touches on economics, it touches on development, it touches on social growth, it touches on so many aspects. And what we're seeing is that there is going to be a transformation in how we do business, in how we run our countries, in how we run our economies. And what's going to be important about this COP is that for the first time, we're going to be bringing the private sector right next to the negotiations, because the negotiations have only got us so far. Now we really need to engage the private sector in delivering on the emissions reductions, and you heard Dr. Sultan talk about the need for decreasing emissions and having maximum growth. And ADNOC has been at the forefront of this work. We need that to happen across all of sectors. And you as UAE stakeholders will play a very, very important part in that. And by the way, I want to stress, this can be a real opportunity for you and for your businesses. This is the future that is coming, and the more you can prepare yourselves and prepare your companies for that future, the better positioned you'll be for when we move to that transition of this new economy that we're looking at.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Just to touch upon when you said the private sector, actually ADNOC and many of our partners and sponsors are actually right now signing a lot of these agreements. And also we have a very important parts in those agreements where it touches upon sustainability. Now just touching upon the sustainability part, we go to Mr. Abdel Nasser bin Kalban, who is the Emirates Global Aluminium CEO. I know I skipped, I was supposed to go to Mr. Yasser, but I will go to your question, and that is because we touched upon the private sector. And a lot of the people we're signing with do touch upon the aluminum sector. They do have some sort of supply chain with the aluminum sector. Now, we know that the mining takes a big industrial process. How do you make your process in Emirates Global Aluminium more sustainable?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here with between the distinguished panelists here. And sustainability is something close to our heart. And our leadership called 2023 the Year of Sustainability. As you know, EGA now considered to be the biggest premium producer aluminum in the world. And we are basically having a lot of requests from our customers to improve our sustainability agenda and also the strategy going forward. And I'm here to produce and tell you that EGA have already pledged for net zero by 2050. And now we are working on a plan how we can basically have an interim target by 2030, which hopefully will announce it before the COP28. As you know, EGA has a captive power station. And the size of this power station considered to be number 3 after EWIC and DIWA. 6 gigawatts, yeah? And this is all used for aluminum smelting processes. So it's very obvious the largest gas house emissions basically coming from this power station, which emit more than 60% of our CO2 emission to the atmosphere. So this is the first area we'd like to tackle. So we come up with a great initiative with the grid, who will already been announced, and they are looking now to acquire this power station. This power station is number 3, but it's the most efficient power station in the UAE. I'm really proud of that. And EWIC, whoever will buy this power station, will create a lot of synergy between their own fleet of power stations.
So the power station is on the market, or?
Now under negotiation.
Okay.
So, and also the good thing about EGA is basically a base load. So the load is there 24 hours throughout the year. So whoever we want to invest in a solar project, we are the best customer for this use. At the moment, we are in the final stage of negotiation, and I believe this initiative will be a win-win situation for us and for the user, because it will open the door for more renewable power, and will help us basically to also capture synergy between our system and the grid system. So we're doing good on this front. The second challenge we have is basically our CO2 emission within the smelting processes.
Can you tell us more about it? Because I think the population doesn't know what that process is. exactly?
Basically, it is electrolysis process. We convert the AC power to DC power, and we inject alumina. So the alumina is the raw materials. If you inject DC current, it will separate the alumina and convert it to aluminum plus some CO2. And the issue is this CO2 coming from our processes is low concentration. So the carbon capture solution available in the market is not good for us, is not efficient. So I would encourage the audience, if you have good solution or companies, please come and talk to me after this meeting, because I'm keen to.
We actually have a session, I think is it today or tomorrow, where we're actually discussing these innovations.
Well,
maybe we should connect with your team.
I'll be spending the full 2 days here, but really the CO2 is the name of the game for us going forward, because we have no other option, whether to go with carbon capture with storage and utilization, or basically go and reinvent all the technology we have.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Abdel Nasser.
Okay,
now, my next question is to His Excellency Saeed Ramethi. Of course, because you are the CEO of Emirates Steel Arkan, so it's perhaps logical that I start with aluminium and then go to steel. So a similar question. What does the steel industry do to be more sustainable?
All right, okay. Thank you, Reem, for the invitation. Really glad to be here. Of course, the sustainability is the subject of the day, but I can tell you from the steel industry, when it started here in the UAE, actually the journey of decarbonization and sustainability started at that time. So back in 2006, where we have built the plant, we have in mind, and this is where we cater that the plants actually meet strict, I would say, local and international environmental aspect by all means, including, of course, the emissions, like gas usage, raw material usage, and of course the electricity and the energy overall. And on top of that is the CO2 capture, which is of course a big part of our decarbonization. I would say agenda, which we have invested at that time more than $100 million just to cater that. So the plant has been already equipped in terms of the decarbonization. I would say, I can state that, by some facts, where today the steel industry here in UAE, our company, we are producing 1.1 tons per ton of, tons of CO2 per ton of steel. That's 45% lower than the global average, which is 1.9. We did not really stop there, but last year, actually, we managed to reduce this also by 35%, so we are in 0.7, so we are even much better than our peers, which they are using the same technology. So the technology is really robust in terms of CO2 emissions and efficiency overall, but alhamdulillah, with our CO2 capture and the initiatives we had, we've been in 0.7 today, which is, I would say, we're very, very proud of that. Now, the journey, again, does not really stop there. And 3-4 years down the road, we are planning to really increase more scrap. We'll introduce more of the equipments where we can also reduce the CO2 emissions, planning to go to 0.6, I would say, ton. And of course, ultimately, hydrogen, and this is where we're looking for. Once we introduce the hydrogen, then we can go to net zero. That's the ambitious we are having moving forward. So that's from the emissions point of view. Society-wise, I would say, proud also to really introduce products. So today we have high tensile steel products that's actually where can be used less steel in the buildings and the constructions overall, and of course that's impact directly the CO2 emissions in terms of the construction sector.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure if we want to know more about these innovations, we can. We have a stand for Emirates Steel. Can we see those innovations there? Is there someone who can talk to us about?
Welcome.
Thank you so much. So, of course, my next question is to my own director, Mr. Yasser Al-Mazroui. He is our Executive Director for People, Commercial and Corporate Services in ADNOC. So my question to you, Mr. Yasser, ADNOC strategy is maximum energy, minimum emissions. So what does that mean for the UAE and the economic opportunities that are coming our way until we reach COP28, inshallah, in 182 days, was it?
183.
183, okay. So what are we doing in ADNOC, basically?
Thank you, Reem. Assalamu alaikum. Let me start by just making things clear where we understand and we know that the global energy demand will continue to increase when we talk about the short term, medium term, and longer term. And we also know that the renewable source today that we have is not sufficient for such demand. Thus, this calls for what we called an energy transition period to ensure that we deliver an energy security and affordability. Now, this is where ADNOC comes with a strategy to focus or to maximize energy output and minimize the emissions. Therefore, we have accelerated our journey in ADNOC, the journey of decarbonization and technology. Our plan is every new energy unit we produce has less carbon than the one before that. In fact, we started in the 1970s, where we captured our flares from the operations, and that resulted in a commercial value stream. Today we know it as ADNOC Gas. A lot of the people here are probably investors in ADNOC Gas today. Today, we have our onshore operations. They're actually powered by nuclear and solar power. That also reduces emission. By the way, what ADNOC Gas actually did beyond that move in the 70s was reduce 89% of the emission of ADNOC operations. The move to nuclear power, powering our onshore operations by nuclear and solar power, has even reduced that emission further. Not only that, today as we speak, we're embarking on the first of its kind, what we call subsea cables. We're connecting our offshore assets to the grid, and that will allow us to even reduce our emissions even further. In ADNOC, we have announced that we're going to invest $15 billion in low carbon solutions, focusing on electrification and decarbonization. And of course, dramatically enhancing or increasing our renewable energy with Masdar. We are increasing our CCUS target by 500%, going from 800,000 tons per annum today to 5 million tons per annum by 2023. And we're also expanding on our harnessing our fuel gas or clean fuel from hydrogen and of course ammonia to follow that. And there are several other projects that ADNOC is actually embarking on in this portfolio. Now, with the ICV, in-country value, in mind, we are enabling our local or private sector to actually capitalize on this commercial opportunity across ADNOC value chain. If I was to quote His Excellency Dr. Sultan, he once said that climate crisis also represents climate opportunity. Now, billions of dollars will be spent to fund innovative projects across the value chain of ADNOC. We are welcoming our private sectors to support ADNOC or support, transform, and decarbonize and future-proof ADNOC. And one last statement I would like to say is, with your help, we can build the energy system of tomorrow while meeting the energy need of today. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yasser. Thank you. Now, before I head on to Mr. Alan Smith, again, I'm sorry, Mr. Abdel Nasser, I didn't congratulate you on the award, because I also need to congratulate you, and I need to congratulate Mr. Alan Smith, because Aghliya and EGA has won the Make It in the Emirates Award, so thank you so congratulations for the awards. Oh, and ECA, sorry, as well, I apologize for forgetting.
By the way.
And Adnok as well, yes. So, congratulations for winning the awards. Inshallah, Your Excellency Majid, you will win an award, inshallah, by COP28, hopefully. So my last question is to you, Mr. Alan Smith. We know that we cannot sustain life without food. And as funny as that is, it is quite serious. It is quite serious. Without food, you cannot sustain life. So I would like to know, how are you manufacturing food sustainably?
Thank you. Great question. I think working in the food and beverage industry is a real privilege. We know it brings a lot of pleasure and, as you say, a lot of life to everybody. Firstly, Agthia over the last couple of years has changed quite a lot. We've been on a bit of a growth journey, so we've doubled our business over the last couple of years. I think it's great to be part of this forum today. We're proudly Emirati. If you look at our business today, we have 10 manufacturing sites across the UAE. 50% of our revenue is generated in the UAE, but importantly, 70% of the products that generate our revenue is actually manufactured in the UAE. So we have a big export business. We're very committed to manufacturing in this country and continuing to support the economy. If we think about the question on sustainability, obviously growth and ambition comes with responsibility as well. So one thing that hasn't changed from our strategy over the last couple of years is our commitment to sustainability. And right across the group, whether it's our legacy businesses or our new companies, we've continued to focus on that. And it's really built around 4 Ps. So we focus on packaging, we focus on process, we focus on partnerships, and we focus on our people. So if we take each one in turn, on the packaging front, over the last 12 months, we've saved around 3,000 tons of packaging in our manufacturing process. That's really come from our investment in R&D and our commitment to cutting waste. We've also launched our 100% rPET bottle. This was launched in the first quarter of this year. This is the first 100% rPET bottle manufactured in the UAE. We're very proud of that, and it's infinitely sustainable. 3 years ago, we launched another water bottle, which was based on plant-based resin. Again, 100% biodegradable. So our commitment right across our R&D is to continue to look at innovative solutions to make products that are sustainable. If we start to talk about process, we have smart monitoring processes across our fleet and across our manufacturing operations. This focus on efficiency and inefficiencies in our manufacturing and supply chain allowed us to save around 4.3% of COP2 emissions last year. We've also saved water. We focus on saving energy, and obviously the question you asked me earlier, we're very focused on ensuring that we don't have waste in the supply chain with our retail partners. When it comes to partnerships, we have 2 main partnerships. Firstly, we have the Recap partnership, which is with Veolia. Last year, we collected over 600 tons of recycling, both from businesses and consumers across the UAE, which is then reprocessed. And importantly, in Q1 this year, we announced an MOU under the auspices of MOAD, together with Bayer, Veolia, and ourselves, basically, which is a commitment allowing Veolia to build the first rPET recycling plant in Abu Dhabi, which should come on stream by 2024. So partnerships are extremely important to us. The last part is people. Obviously, we employ 11,000 colleagues across the Agthia system. 60% of those colleagues are based here in the UAE. We're constantly upskilling them, we're constantly reminding them of the need to save, the need to innovate responsibly, and the need to innovate sustainably. So that remains a core part of what we do. And if you look at the purpose of Agthia, which is clearly communicated on our website, for the better of our consumers, for the better of our stakeholders, for the better of our customers, and obviously for the better of our planet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, I think all of my speakers can see that we still have a few minutes on the timer. So I wanted to ask a very open question. How are you as individuals maintaining this sustainability theme ahead of COP28? I think you'll have the best answer since you're the director of COP28.
Well, first of all, I think that your question is very important because at its fundamental, we all need to take action ourselves at the grassroots, and that builds up. And increasingly, climate change and climate action is about the consumer. And I think that we've talked, many of the panelists have talked about this in terms of the demand and supply from industry or from providers. I think we need to all start to think about different kinds of solutions. And that can be from the home in terms of how we use water, how we consume products, whether we are choosing products that have sustainable packaging, and then to as in the workplace where we're making decisions every day. Many of us make decisions at a business level about the types of consumption that our companies are going to make, or our units even will make. And as long as we're thinking about those in a sustainable way, then we're contributing. Because the scale of the problem is big. I think that was mentioned already by Yasser. We have a big gaps between what we need to achieve, where we need to get to, and what we need to do that. On emissions reductions, we need to achieve by 2030, to achieve the goals of Paris, we need to achieve a 43% emissions reduction. That means that we basically need to halve the amount of emissions that we produce today globally, which is a huge task. And when you think about the environment that we live in that's very energy intensive, then that is a big challenge. Then there are other issues of finance. So the latest reports indicate that we need to have $2.4 trillion of annual investment to be able to achieve the goals of Paris. This is a massive amount of investment that needs to happen. But as we look at it, and Dr. Sultan is one of the great champions of this, and I would contend our leadership have been a champion of this. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed was the first really to push for Masdar, our renewable energy company, for diversifying our economy. We've been very fortunate that we had leadership that a long time ago thought about that this transition is coming and that we need to get it, and that it can be an opportunity rather than a challenge. Because every dirham that we save when it comes to energy usage, when it comes to water usage, when it comes to waste in terms of packaging, is a dirham that can be used in other aspects of our economic development and growth. And we have to think about that future. Today we are dependent on oil and gas. We're fortunate that our leadership had that vision to drive us to be 71% non-oil and gas based, but we need to address that remaining 30%. And industries like steel and aluminium are going to be really critical to that. But they're also high emitting industries, and we need to think about the solutions of how we reduce their emissions. And by the way, that makes us more competitive in the international market, because over time, people are going to be looking at, is this steel low carbon? Is this aluminium low carbon? And it makes us much, much more competitive. Are we using less energy to produce that steel? Are we using less energy to produce that aluminium? So the point I'd really like to stress is that these decisions are good for our business, they're good for our households, they're good for our public health. Remember, this climate change affects our health, our families, but fundamentally it's also good for our country, and it's something that we all need to get behind from the home to the workplace.
That is correct. We have to start from the home. That is absolutely correct. Anything, gentlemen, you would like to add on how are you as individuals being sustainable ahead of COP28?
I will say COP28 is, I believe, is going to be a great event in the UAE, maybe the greatest globally this year. So EGA looking forward for good participation there, and actually looking for a sponsorship as well, which I'm looking forward, Simon, to get the results soon. We have a number of products we'd like to display. And before that, actually, I would like to present our ESG strategy. and how EGA will hit net zero by 2050. Will be in our agenda. I'm keen for our shareholders or stakeholders to know what we're going to do in the future, customers, because they are keen for a green aluminum. And for us also, we'd like to deliver the sustainability product to the highest standard because, CBAM is coming very soon in Europe. And we do want to miss also the new scheme in the US, which is basically giving us more credit if we come up with more green products. Some of the green products we already announced, basically the green aluminum based on solar power, we call it Celestia. And this product has high demand from our customers, and we're looking to basically showcase it there. And one product we are working on, we call Turba. Turba is nothing but a product we managed to do it now, still in the lab. We have a bauxite residue, which is basically a waste of our alumina refinery. It will create a sweet soil for the UAE, which enable to contain the water, and the water can stay within the turba itself for more than extra 50% of the time. So this is one, and the minerals within the turba is great. So we are looking forward for also organic farms in the UAE using this nice product. And there is more things we'd like to discuss, inshallah, and showcase it in COP28.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdel Nasser bin Kalban. If you would like to go ahead with something?
Yeah, sure. So from our side, I'll just try to keep it simple. Reem, of course, there's a lot of things, as I said, initiatives we are trying to do, but I think the main ambitious and the main dream for us at Emirates Steel is to create in UAE a global green steel hub that will really affect or reduce the carbon footprint across the whole chain, global, here locally and internationally, of the steel industry. And of course, that will put UAE and Abu Dhabi in a pioneer in this field. As simple as that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Said. Thank you.
Okay.
But no one, Mr. Yassin, no one answered my question. I said, individually speaking, what are you doing to be sustainable? I wish you can answer that.
And I know you. No, I'll follow the same trend. So before I answer or talk about this question, we just want to highlight that today we're very proud of where we are when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to the efforts or what we have achieved so far. If I focus back on ADNOC and what ADNOC has done to reduce emissions and ensure all the initiatives regarding low carbon solution and sustainability, today you will see, for example, our stand is talking about localization or localized to decarbonize. So even the efforts that we're doing with the private sector and are there to reduce or to ensure sustainability going forward, not only for COP28, but even beyond that. So we're not only targeting COP28. When I visited a lot of the manufacturers, and I'm still continuing my visits to a lot of the manufacturers we have in UAE, I was very proud of the products that we see, the products that are manufactured locally, that's reducing the transportation effort or the emissions due to transportation from abroad. We're capitalizing a lot on UAE nationals, so this is also part of sustainability when you have self-sufficiency in terms of being able to produce a product in-house or in the country with Emiratis as well. And if you go around today in the booths, you will see companies who actually highlight that products made in UAE by Emiratis, and they are very proud, and actually we are very proud of that as well. As part of my role, I want to make sure that I continue to enable such innovation and such contribution from the private sector with ADNOC. Plus, as part of my role in ADNOC, I continue to ensure that I spread awareness to the organization. So we can have individuals who can actually contribute as much as they can to COP28 and even beyond that.
It was very well put together. Thank you so much, Mr. Yasser. Thank you. Last but not least, Mr. Alan Smith. I'm very excited to hear your answer on this.
Well, firstly, I can confirm I only use our 100% our PET bottle at home. We have signed up to recap, so my family does recycle everything that we use in the house. All of my offices have the recap containers in them, so we're making sure that we're being environmentally friendly in that regard. But I think the other important thing is, you know, as CEOs, as heads of organization, it's important that these priorities are important for us. We need to make sure that it's not a target for our sustainability lead or for our individuals in the factories. It needs to be on the KPIs of the leaders in the organization. That means me. It's discussed regularly with the board. It's also on the KPIs of my leadership team. So we are making this important. It does matter. This is the year of sustainability, but sustainability isn't a one-year journey. It's something that we've been doing for a long period of time, and it's something we'll continue to do moving forward. And it's absolutely essential, both for the business and obviously for the planet.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on this wonderful panel. It has been, even though it's the last panel, I can say it was one of the most valuable panels so far. Thank you so much for being with us. And I do invite everyone to do visit all these stands that we have for the wonderful companies we have hosted on this panel today. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.